it's time to change the oil filter, and the coolant, because I'm at the front of the car. So I use Jaguar oil filters. It's a Jaguar oil filter. Why? Because I just don't understand cheaping out on oil filters. Everybody gets so proud. Oh, I saved $3 an oil filter. I saved $4 an oil filter. Have you ever considered the amount of tax you pay on a car purchase? Let's say it's $10,000. In Wisconsin, that's $600. That's $600. And if you were in a place like Washington, that'd be $1,000. So, I saved $5 on an oil filter. Just don't buy a freaking car if you're that into the money. I use Kirkland oil from Costco. It's Dexos 2, it's Gen 2. It's really good oil. It's been tested by a guy on Project Farm who's compared it to all the other oils, Valvoline, Mobil One, and it works just as well, if not better. And I use the Universal Prestone Antifreeze. It works in any car. Let me repeat that. It works in any car. Recommended for all vehicles, makes, models, and years. It's compatible with all coolants. Now, I realize a lot of people think, I need green coolant or pink coolant or yellow coolant or purple coolant. Colors don't matter anymore. They used to in the past, but now a pink coolant in your car cannot be the same. It could be the wrong coolant that you're putting in, even if it's pink. So do not rely on coolant colors to tell you what kind of coolant to put in. So I've already drained the oil, taken the oil filter off, put the new one up, and we're doing the coolant. We'll start with the coolant. There is the petcock up there, and hopefully you can see it hanging down. It was easy to take out. It's been draining. The reservoir is open on the top. I've already taken about a gallon of coolant out. There's the oil filter. It's a Jaguar oil filter. Like I said, I don't believe in saving money on the most expensive item in the car. In terms of if it fails, you've just spent $5,000 for an engine. There's the oil drain plug, already in, torqued to about 20 foot-pounds. I've cleaned up the pan. I've cleaned up the area with some brake clean. So that makes it easier to find an oil leak later on if I'm concerned like, is there an oil leak? Well, I realize that I've cleaned everything up. And if there's an oil leak, it'll be easier to see. So I'm going to close the petcock, lower everything down. I've saved the coolant so that people can take a look at it. I'm going to actually combine the Prestone coolant, which is universal, with what appears to be orange, and I assume that's Ford coolant since this car was built in a time when Ford was its owner. And I don't even think Ford uses the orange coolant anymore. They use now yellow. I think the orange has been replaced by yellow. But like I said, do not trust coolant colors to tell you what the right coolant is to use. It doesn't work anymore that way. So I'll come back. All right, everybody. Bye. It's Monday. It's still September 20th, I think, 2021. And so what I thought I'd do for the skeptics, and there are skeptics out there, is mix the concentrated must-add water, Prestone, any car with a gallon of water. So, clean green bucket. Yeah, gonna load all the water in there. Gotta hope the bucket holds all of it. Well, life's an experiment. So, and then pour the gallon of coolant in there. It's pretty, it's yellow. And then right over here I have the coolant that came out of the car. So I'm gonna mix, this is a 50-50 mix, and I'm gonna mix it with this ugly, brownish, orange, yucky, good. I thought it was cleaner than it was. It's pretty nasty. So we'll see how this works out. I may have to switch to a different bucket. Yeah, we'll see how it works out. It'll work out fine. All right, mixed 50-50. And of course, we're gonna take our antifreeze tester to confirm that it is in fact exactly what I say it is. Nothing more, nothing less. Obviously in the Midwest, freeze protection down to really cold. 50-50 tends to do that for you. And we'll slip this little thing in there. All right, so where are we? Yeah, we're at cooling. Freeze point. minus 45 degrees Fahrenheit. That's cool. It says the recommended is 37. So it obviously is a little bit more than recommended, but that's right. You saw me mix it. It was 50-50. So I'm going to take a slurp of this. It actually looks good through the camera lens, but it's clearly sort of old. And let's see, how much do we have in there? Oh, we got 300. We'll pour it out. And we got 200. And the whole thing holds 450. So I will take some coolant and then mix it in there. Does it flocculate? Does it combine? Does it become a green gooey mess? We will find out. Taking the universal Prestone antifreeze, mixing it in with some unknown antifreeze that I took out of the Jaguar. And we're gonna, let's see, where are we? And we are, I don't know, just a little shy of 400. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, it's roughly 400. I don't see any evidence that the coolants are combining and flocculating or coming in precipitating, which is good. Now, I should do this with regular green antifreeze. I've got green antifreeze, the old style stuff, the acid technology, and I don't see anything. So we're gonna fill up the radiator. Oh God, that is brown and nasty. This is clear and green. Brown and nasty, clear and green. So clearly the antifreeze coolant needed to be exchanged. Now, realize you don't get 100% of everything when you drain something. That includes oil, differential fluid, transmission fluid. You just don't get 100% of everything. So don't get crazy. The idea is to keep the buffering capacity of the coolant that's in the car up to snuff, because obviously this stuff gets old, it loses its buffering capacity, things start to rust, the seals start to go bad. Clearly it needed to be done. This is the new stuff. So if I only exchange 70 or 80% of the old coolant with new coolant, that's a pretty good percentage. It's better than nothing. And it's a whole lot easier than replacing a water pump, a radiator, a thermostat, a heater core. But you know my philosophy. So, talk to you later. Bye. All right. Put about 6 liters of oil into the engine, 5W30. It's got a new filter. It's supposed to take like 6.2 liters, but who knows? You can see, if you look out there, you can see the device that helps feed coolant into the reservoir. I like using that. That's the mixture of the Prestone all-car coolant. We'll start it up. No oil pressure light. That's good. Car sounds good. I turn the lights off because during the day I see no reason to run the lights. But that's just me. Idle is 1200. Yeah. Remember, I cleaned the MAP sensor, did a throttle body cleaning, put a new air filter in. Does it make a difference? Who knows? I have no idea. I just know it's a maintenance thing. So we're gonna let it idle. I think 6 liters of oil is more than sufficient to do the job. And now we're going to, the routine is you're supposed to put the heat on the highest setting possible. And then we're gonna drop it down one. The fan on low. What this does supposedly is opens up the heater core in the body of the car. And opening up the heater core is important because it allows any air that's trapped in the heating core to be removed. As the thermostat opens up and all this coolant starts circulating, the idea is that you want to get all the bubbles, any potential air bubbles, out of the engine, because air bubbles don't cool well. Unless you're a Volkswagen that was air cooled, that really wasn't bubbles. All right, yeah, that's getting a little silly. So I'm going to let it sit in an idle. Everything sounds great. Coolant is cool. The story I hear is you're supposed to feel the air coming out. And when it gets hot, you know you've opened up the heater core, because that's the hot coolant circulating through the heater core. If it's circulating through the heater core, that's good, because you want to flush out the old coolant which is in the heater core, which you can't drain out. That's part of the coolant that remains in the system, even though you change all the coolant. In this case, about 1.5 liters approximately, roughly, ballpark. Not a scientist. But we'll just let it heat up. Idles nice and smooth. The car sounds great. I don't hear a ticking or tacking or any clacking or anything weird. Things are running nice and smooth. I don't see any real bubbles coming up. This is my spill-proof funnel kit. Until I got this, trying to fill reservoirs with coolant, it was a pain in the butt. I can actually walk away now, leave this like this, knowing that this water level, this coolant level, is higher than any other part of the engine, which increases the chance that air bubbles will come out, come into here, pop out, leave the radiator, and then coolant will take its place. Am I guaranteed that works? No. Some cars are very weird. I've actually seen some people park the car so that the front of the car is up, which allows air bubbles to come out of the block, and they still use one of these things. We'll see what happens. If it starts to overheat, presumably we'll know. There's the mass airflow sensor. Clean that. New air filter. New cabin filter over there. Throttle body was cleaned out. So next we'll do power steering fluid, brake fluid, but you can only do so much in a day. And this is one of those cases of so much in a day. Also, I've got a friend coming over. We're gonna check because he's got an oil leak on the underside of the car. I'm not sure that I'll be able to figure it out. Wasn't quite sure what it was. But we'll come back in the cabin. Oh, it's starting to heat up. No heat coming out of the heater core. Presumably the thermostat is still closed, so if there is any air bubbles hidden behind the closed thermostat, they should start coming out. Oh, I forgot to mention, this gadget for filling the radiator is very cool because it has, or very hot since we're talking about a radiator, it has this little device here. So then let's say we spend 20 minutes, or I do 20 minutes, and we're done and we have some left. We stick this in here, it seals off the container, and then I can pour the fresh, unviolated coolant antifreeze back into its container and save it for another day. And that's what we'll do. And we'll just let it sit, do its thing. I do carry a bottle of distilled water in the car after doing a radiator flush. Yeah, I know it's kind of hokey, but what I've discovered is sometimes if you're driving it reasonably hard, some of the little air bubbles pop out. Don't know where they're hiding. They're sneaky little devils, those air bubbles. And then I have some distilled water, because you don't want to put minerals into your cooling system. It combines with the coolant, precipitates, comes out of solution into the engine block. Always a bad thing. This is an aluminum engine, and you want to treat it with love and care, because they're not making these anymore. They're just not using them anymore. It's 15 years old. It's much easier to keep it running well than it is to start looking for a used one. Oh, what a nightmare. It's already a used one. Why would I start to neglect it just because I want to be cheap. But I'm beating on that horse till it's dead. So this will just sit here and I'll let it warm up, listen to the engine. This relieves me of any stress of having to watch whether the reservoir is full, because it obviously automatically fills it. As coolant leaves the reservoir, this fills up and takes its space. That's a great tool. I haven't had this thing more than 3 or 4 months, and it would have been a lifesaver had I gotten one years ago. But then it would have burned up in the house fire, so I'd be getting a new one. That's a story for another day. Love y'all. Oh, by the way, the weather, it's about 80 degrees outside. It's a little humid. It is very nice though. As you can tell, it's sunny. It's a typical Midwest, late summer, early fall day. Yeah, oh God, it's nice. Yes. Oh, I got some two new tool chests at Menards, which is like Home Depot. It's a box store. I got a good price on them. They were already assembled. One's got a little scratch on the top, but who cares? They're gonna get beat up with time. I had to have 2 guys at Menards help me load it in because they're heavy, substantial. And I have some people coming over in the next couple of hours who are gonna help me get it out, roll it into the garage, start storing the tools like I should. This thing has power. Look at that, and has outlets and USB ports. So I can be just like the cool kids. So I'll talk to you later. Bye. All right, cooling fan is kicked in. You can see some of the bubbles that are being expelled from the system. And obviously it immediately replaces those bubbles with coolant. It hasn't dropped down that much. But you can see this is a great tool. If you have a chance, pick one up. You won't regret it. It comes with many adapters. Now, I did rev the engine up to about 2,500, and it definitely accelerated the expelling of bubbles. You may not be able to hear it, but the electric cooling fan is on, which is good. I will grab the engine a little bit more. You can see we haven't had an overheat yet on the dash. And we'll rev the engine. Try to keep my hand steady. And it's hard to tell from here, but a number of bubbles are being expelled of that radiator. Got it going about 2,000 RPM. Hopefully you can see that. Oh, a little more than that. Bubbles are being expelled out of the cooling system. And temp gauge is good. We're not overheating. Yeah, I'm glad it changed the coolant. It clearly was old, and one thing I don't want the cooling system to do is rust or have the seals, head gasket seals, start to degrade because the coolant is funky. Not a dramatic change in the volume of the coolant in the container. Oh wait, oh God, it went down a lot. Oh my God, oh Lordy. Something opened up.